Hello, everyone. Here we are going to go over some of the do's and don'ts when creating your teaching ideas and give you some clarity on exactly what it is that you're supposed to be doing for that section of the text set. Here are the key concepts of your teaching ideas. They need to be activities, not a theme. So each teaching idea should be a simple activity that allows the students to better understand the content or the themes presented in the text. So here what we're saying is you're not just going to present us a topic that you're going to cover, it actually is going to be an activity. Next would be uniqueness. Each activity must be unique with the specific text that it's paired with, meaning that activity can only be completed with that text. So you have to find a way to take an activity that maybe deals with your theme or content area and adapt it so that it somehow is pulling and making connections with that specific text. So you couldn't take that activity and do it with another book or multimedia text. It could only be completed with this text. Next, you really need to have a purpose, so please be sure that you've stated or expressed the purpose for the lesson, relating it to the text. Example, why did you have the students complete this activity? So somewhere in your activity, it just needs to tell us why it is that they are doing it, what you expect them to get from it. We ask that you please be mindful of the grade level. We've seen examples in the past where students will have a kindergarten, the book says that the interest level is kindergarten, and then their activity deals with the students writing 2 paragraphs or a paragraph or something like that. That's not something that a kindergartner could do, so please make sure that your activities are something that can be done at that grade level. Oftentimes, we get a lot of students who just give us discussions and writings as their activities. So it might say something like, we will discuss the main idea and make connections or something like that. And while discussions are great for wrapping up activities and so are writings, and we're not trying to take away from that, we really want to see your ability to create actual activities here. You can always add a discussion at the end of your activity, but please try to stay away from just only having discussions or writings. Next, I'm going to show you some poor examples that are some of the common things that we get, and we're going to go over how to fix them. How he helps himself. This is about a student with cerebral palsy who really just wants to be able to move his wheelchair by himself without other people trying to help him. So, the teaching idea this student had was to read the book to the class and have the students share their favorite part of the book. This is not unique to the text as it can be done with any book. Also, what's the purpose here? So they share their favorite part of the book, but why are they doing that? So to enhance this lesson, I would have students pick their favorite part of the book and then draw how Howie feels on that page, because at this age level, a lot of students are learning emotions. So I would have them draw that. Then as a class, we would share the picture or the part of the book that we talked about. They would express why Howie was feeling that way. And then if Howie was a member of our classroom, how could we make sure that he didn't feel that way? And the purpose for that would be to help students understand when we should help people who with disabilities like this and when we should let them do it themselves and why that's so important to those students. Trombone Shorty is about a boy who loves his trombone and he ends up like going to bed with it at night and he just can't put it down. So the teaching idea that a student had given us was before Trombone Shorty has his own brass instrument, he would use random items to make music, provide pots, pans, shakers, and various items for your class to create their own class-made band. Through this activity, students will gain an understanding that you can create awesome masterpieces even if you don't have all of the coolest and newest things. So the purpose for this as of right now is just kind of broad. That's not really a lesson, you know. So what you could maybe add to this would be the students would pick their friends, pick instruments, make a band, and then they would just write a short story explaining what their band name is, what kind of band they are, and a story about maybe how they met or some kind of little story. Obviously, it could be made up because this is all about being creative, and then have them present that what their band's about and that information about their band, and then play a short song that they created for the class. So now they're working on presentation skills and writing skills while doing something fun and creative. So it's unique to the book and it also is working on some of these other skills. So it has a purpose. So this text deals with stopping bullying. So the student here picked a lesson that talks about stopping bullying. So sometimes some of these links will take us to actual activities for that specific book, and that's fine. This one just takes me to a list of stopping bullying activities that aren't so specific to the text. While this might be a great activity, you really need to add a purpose here. Just explaining how you're going to take this lesson and make it unique to this text. How are you going to make those connections to the specific characters or events or something like that in this text? So please make sure your activities are unique to the text. Next, we're going to look at some great examples. Radiant Child is about a young boy who grows up and becomes a famous artist. So the teaching idea you can see says that he has three key symbols, a crown, an eye, and a form of transportation. So it asks students to create their own symbol and draw it out that incorporates their values and strengths and things like that. Then they're all going to be put on the wall to create a mural. The mural will then help students visualize differences and similarities that exist in the classroom. So this is an excellent activity because it is unique to the text. It connects with something that deals with the main character, and the purpose is also stated that the mural is going to help them to visualize those differences and similarities in the classroom. So there's a purpose, it's unique, and it's fun and creative. Next, this activity deals with Charlotte's Web. So the teaching idea was to have students practice their vocabulary words by writing their words out of yarn like Charlotte did. They can first create their own web and then write their words throughout the web that they have created. So you'll see that the purpose of this activity doesn't actually deal with the theme of the text, which they all don't have to. If you can incorporate other academic areas, that's awesome. So here they're working on vocab words, but they made this activity unique to the text by using the yarn to create a web as they write their words, just like Charlotte's Web. So this is just a great activity that's a fun way to incorporate the book that they're reading into other areas in the classroom. Harold and the Purple Crayon is about a young boy who just draws his way through the day. So the whole book's about being in his imagination. He just draws shapes and places and he goes to them, and you kind of travel with him through his imagination. So the teaching idea was to give students a purple piece of string or yarn, have them create their own shape and then hang them around the room, and then have them come up with their own story using the shapes. So you'll see that there we don't really see the purpose, but below here, this person with that bullet has explained that it's a great activity for practicing shapes in math, as many students this age group are just learning their shapes, teaching students how to creatively think, and lastly, it can help students learn how to plan a creative writing piece. So here we see the purpose of this activity, and you'll see it actually connects with a math lesson, so a whole new content area than literacy. And on top of that, it is very unique to this text, so this would be a great activity. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out as we're always happy to help.